and welcome to a video from Prestige Car Service. We are currently in lockdown, and the workshop is empty as we're closed, so I thought I'd do a video on my own car, my E55 AMG. This car is a 2002, one of the very first ones. I bought it a few years ago, sold it and bought it back, and since then I've done quite a few bits to it, and I thought I'd just run through what I've done and also what to look out for, more importantly. They are not cheap cars to run, they're not cheap cars to own, they are expensive to say the least. They consume a vast amount of fuel, they consume a vast amount of tyres, brakes, etc, etc. They are phenomenally fast, especially when they're tuned a bit. This car we took to Germany last year, to the Autobahn, and we're quite happily cruising along every day at 145, 150 miles an hour for hours. They are very capable at high speed, and they feel very planted. So they are getting on a bit, they are getting old, so they are things that need attention through the years of ownership. I love this car to bits, it's one of my favourites. It's not an expensive car to buy, but there's something about it which I love. The engine is superb. The power delivery is great, it is fast, it is brutal, it is loud, but I love every bit of it. So I'm going to run through a few things, inside, outside, engine bay, that sort of thing, and also underneath the car to help you guys out a little bit. This one is pretty good. I've got a little bit coming through on the rear arches, but she's not too bad. When I crashed it once, I had to take the front bumper off. That's a new front bumper I've had on there. The corrosion to the side and either side of the bumper and behind was very... So another thing to point out is the front headlamps. Okay, they do tend to cloud up. This has actually got a new headlamp fronts on it. I bought a pair of aftermarket ones just to see what they were like, just for future reference. Fitted them quite easily, only took it's a roughly 2 or 3 hour job. Bumper off, headlights out, split them apart and put them back together again. So not a too bad job. I think I got the pair for about £50, so quite cheap, but you can polish them up if you want to. Polishing kits available on eBay, etc. The other thing to be concerned with is the boot. They do tend to have a few leaks. Boot aperture seal, rear light seals, they can leak in there. And there's quite a few electronics in there, so be aware of that if you want to go and look at one to buy. Otherwise, body are not too bad. Sorry, one more thing I just thought of actually. The wiring in the mirrors. If you fold your mirrors regularly, the wiring will break, and they renowned for it. I don't fold my mirrors anymore because it's a bit of a pain to repair them, and quite often you actually need a whole new mirror frame as well if it's been repaired 2 or 3 times, which can happen over a car's life. So I tend to turn the folding off. I don't use the folding very often. Yes, I think otherwise that's about it really. Bodywork wise, obviously always buy on condition. Paint, well, these cars are getting old, they would have had paint at some point in its life. Make sure it's good quality paint and the paintwork is nice and shiny and looked after. Being a powerful car and expensive to run and expensive to maintain, some things can get neglected if the owner hasn't got the budget to run one, so just be really aware of that. Under the bonnet of my 55, so this one's got a few mods on it. So we have smaller supercharger pulley, have a split cooling system between the supercharger and the engine cooling, which is what that box is there at the front. Excuse the dirtiness of the engine bay, I've just pulled it out of storage, I haven't used it for a while, so it's not the cleanest as it should be. Also, I've had the supercharger off recently. I've had all the plenums off, and to replace all the gaskets because they do suffer with air leaks in that area, which is an issue that makes them idle or not idle quite right. This has got a fair amount of mods on it, but not a huge amount. The exhaust is pretty much stock, other than the rear boxes from a C63. It's loud enough as it is. I've got the original cats on there, all of them, because I want to keep within the emissions regulations, the MOT tests. A lot of people do remove the cats and the resonators, and they make them very, very loud and almost undrivable because of how loud they are. So I've kept the exhaust mods to a minimum, and I'll show you a bit later on what it sounds like. It does sound very good. It's not too loud, it's just about right, and you get a few pops and burbles with it, which is quite nice. The split cooling system we designed in-house, and we used the customer's car before I had this to design the split cooling system. It works very, very well. It goes in the place of the dust filter, so I don't need that anymore. And it literally splits the cooling system from the engine and the supercharger to keep the intake temps down, and it works really well. It works superbly. I've coupled that with an alloy charge cooler at the front, one I bought from the States, and an uprated Johnson pump to pump the water around. So inside that box there's a few bits of trick stuff I won't tell you about because it's secret, but it does really work. The intake temps are maintained even during the hottest day in the summer. So at 25-30 degrees ambient temperature, I've still got good intake temps. So it allows you to keep pushing this car and drive it hard and keep the performance. If you don't have that, and you've got, say, a remap and a smaller supercharger pulley, you do tend to find the performance drops off after a while. Issues we have with these engines, they're really tough. They're a really tough engine. They take a lot of abuse, but a few things that do go wrong. Air leaks are one for the manifolds, and a few of the pipework at the back by the throttle butterfly. Oil leaks, mainly from the rocker cover gaskets. You'll get a slight smell, a hot oil smell coming through the vents, and that's rocker cover gaskets and the breathers on top of that as well. Really common. They don't last either. Normally need doing every 2 to 3 years. It's just a design flaw, but it's not expensive to do and a DIY job too. So on the whole, they don't really leak much oil or water, and they're pretty good in that respect. This one's got a new radiator in it because I did crash it, like I mentioned earlier, and it was in really good nick when I took it apart from it being bent, but they don't really suffer too much. The pulleys, there are a lot of them on the front, okay, and they can get a bit noisy. The supercharger tensioner pulley is a weak point, and they are really expensive pulleys. And I'm going to start the engine in a second. Please don't look too close at the cleanliness of it. It's been in storage for about 6 months, so I haven't used it very much until bringing it here today. So it does need a really good clean under here. I'm quite fussy with how clean my cars are and under the bonnet, and it breaks my heart that it's a bit of a state like this. But I've just noticed something actually. I've got a vacuum pipe here that's split, so she probably won't idle quite as healthily as she should. But I'll start it up so you can listen to what it's like and see the sort of typical engine noise these make. They're not particularly loud. But they do make quite a distinctive sound. So it's going to fire up. And so I've got a little bit of a pulley squeak there, probably from a little bit of damp, not an awful lot to worry about. I think it's probably more likely the belt than anything else. It's a little very tiny squeak. But she's not running too bad actually, she's quite smooth, even though I've got a little vacuum leak. I recently did some plug leads on it as well, full set. The plug leads for these I always buy the genuine ones because they fit better, and they are astronomically expensive for a set, and being a 16 plugged engine, a twin spark, plugs are sort of £9 each. They are quite expensive to do a plug change on them, and quite awkward. I think I did a spark plug change, a timed spark plug change once on a CLK 430. A nice guy called Howard let me do it on this car, and I did a set in 26 minutes. I've never timed myself since, but if you know what you're doing, you can do them pretty quickly. On the whole, most garages charge about an hour and a half labour to do a set of plugs. We're quite used to doing them. I've done hundreds and hundreds of them, and we've got all the right tools to do it properly and quickly. So yeah, this is you're going to hear the engine running. She's quite smooth, and not too bad at all. I'm quite proud of this car, the work that's gone into it. a labour of love, because there's always something he's doing. I've just seen a few more things I want to do to it as well, so it's a constant battle into keeping it nice. As I get on a bit. Okay, the interior of my 55, I haven't really done anything to this since I've had it. It's fairly stock. I've just done a few little bits and bobs in regards to the audio on it. Just got a Bluetooth system in here, which I'm in the middle of fitting, hence there's a little hole here. And this does have a Rentec lowering module as well, because this is all on airmatic. The suspension has 4 airmatic struts, and I've got a special Rentec lowering module, which is located below the floor here. It's a wiring system, really good. If you're into it, you can get the car really quite low. At the minute I've got it on a medium setting, so that's not too harsh when I drive it. So this car's done 135,000, so quite a few. They're good for it. So, but the interior does wear. This steering wheel is had it really, and I'll need another one. I'll get this recovered. On the whole, the seats do wear. The leather gets a bit tired, like all cars really. But on the whole, they're okay. They're not the prettiest interiors in the world. There's not a lot you can do to make it much better. But I do plan to wrap some of this bird's eye maple in here, because it's starting to get a bit discoloured, and I would like to one day maybe get the seats re-leathered if I can stomach the cost of it, because it is quite expensive. Generally on the whole, when you're checking the interior of a used E55, make sure everything works, including heated seats, ventilated seats if it's got it, and the orthopaedic seats. The orthopaedic seats in this car don't work, they never have. I expect the pump is faulty. They aren't very good, they don't last very long. They are very expensive, about £1,000 for a pump fitted. You'll find various vacuum leaks, because they do leak, pipes fall off the seats, all that sort of stuff, and the bags and the seats do fail. The orthopaedic seats in this car, I'm not too bothered about it not working. It's not the best thing in the world to ever use. If you've got a bad back, it's good for that, but it's not that good as a system, and they don't last either. The pumps do fail. I'm not a massive fan of the orthopaedic seats anyway. I'm not that bothered at not working on this car. Maybe if I find a second-hand pump that's quite reasonably priced, I'll do one, but they are very expensive. I think there's money better spent elsewhere. The clocks on here, it's got the standard clocks. You can get a 200-mile-an-hour clock for it. It's got the standard 160 on here. Again, I'm not too bothered about having a 200-mile-an-hour clock. It's quite happy where it is. They do fail occasionally, the clusters, which is repairable as well. Normally the little chip in the side fails, and they go completely dead. The audio systems on these, the older command units, they are failing now as they get older. They won't turn on, or just get the Merc sign. I've got the older system in here. I'm quite happy with it. I quite like it. It's sort of a bit old-fashioned, and I've got a Bluetooth audio system linked up to it as well, so the sound isn't too bad. Although my rear subwoofer has blown, so I need to get that replaced. The digital climate control up the front here, again very reliable, very rarely go wrong. If you ever get the aircon light flashing, or the EC light flashing, that normally means it's out of aircon gas, or there's a fault with the system. Normally it's the condenser that's leaking. I've lost count of the amount of condensers I put on these. They are a weak point of the aircon on all cars really. But on the whole, they generally wear quite reasonably. But of the B-pillar trim here is fallen to bits, which I need to get another one for. It should be the last thing I do the interior when I finish everything else on it. Like I said before, it's never really a finished car. It's just a constant bit of work. But I think it's because this car's getting on a bit, and it's quite old now. More and more things become more apparent. Anyway, I'll move on to the underneath of the car, I think now.